So be recording and the slides hosted on the Pearson Music community pages, and there's a link at the end of the slides, that page as well. Just early on, there might be a few bleeps as people join or leave the session. Unfortunately, I don't have control over that, so can't mute them. And the other thing to say is that if you do have any problems with sound at all throughout the session, so if you can't hear anything, then the best thing to do is to log out and log back in. That's usually will fix most problems. So just to make sure that everyone can hear, you should have a raised hand icon in your bar there. So if you could click on that now, just to let me know that you can hear. I'll just give everyone a minute. And I'm just going to type into the chat. Okay, looks like most people have raised their hand now. So I'm just going to lower all of those. Okay, so we'll get going. It's just quite a short session, just to really give an update of where we are at the moment and what we know so far. A lot of information we won't know until the off-call consultation outcomes have been published. So a lot of that just needs really to be confirmed through that consultation. So the agenda is to just give a brief overview of where we are, go through what we know at the moment, just detail through the things that are to be confirmed after consultation, and also really what to carry on with at the moment and what you can do now or potentially do now with your students. So it is a real general sort of session covering GCSE music, A-level music, and A-level music tech. So won't go into any real specifics about any of those qualifications there, but just to give an overview of really what's happening with all of the qualifications. So Secretary of State made the announcement on the 6th of January that schools would be closed, and also that GCSEs and A-levels wouldn't go ahead as planned this summer. So all a little bit deja vu, and so we know that the exams won't be going ahead as planned, but there's still some information to come out about what that really means for all of this. So on the 13th of January, there were then letters sent between the DfE and Ofqual to outline the process to agree the alternative arrangements for their exams in 2021, and that's resulted in the consultation that was published as well. So on the 15th of January, we got the consultation on alternative arrangements. And that is open until 11:45 p.m. on the 29th of January, so just a few days away now until that is closing, and there's a link to the consultation there on the slides as well. And also the other day, JCQ released a notice to centres about NEA as well. And that detailed that if there are closures or students are isolating and unable to attend or are shielding, then that means that they can continue with NEA outside of the normal controls that are there as usually. So that does mean that performing, composing, and the recording and technology-based composition tasks can be done outside of the centre if that is possible. Someone's just a few questions there about what if they don't have software or hardware. It is only if it is possible that they, suggesting that they can continue with it, because at this point we don't know what's going to happen with NEA as well. And someone's just asking what NEA is. So non-examined assessment, coursework in old language. So really what's known? Well, we know that the exams won't be going ahead this summer, and the grade will be based on the teacher's assessment of the standard at which the student is performing. That is suggested that will be done towards the end of the academic year, or as close to the end of the academic year as possible. So it's an actual assessment around the standard that the student is currently at. So there could be internally marked papers to inform the teacher grades. That's certainly part of the proposal, and some of the questions in the consultation are around that as well. And then it's also suggested that potentially exam boards could provide guidance and training for teachers and supply the papers that teachers could use as well there. And there is also, they set out that NEA should continue where possible. And because of the JCQ notice, that does mean that this could be outside of the centre at this point as well. So just to sort of look back on a few comments there. So if the NEA work can be continued with, if possible, assuming that a large number of students will be disadvantaged but not being able to do this, will there be any moderation taking place? So this kind of goes on to the look at what we don't know just yet as well. But really, there is no expectation that the NEA work should be completed, and that comes through on the consultation detail as well. So it is suggested that, if it is possible to continue with NEA, then students can, but there isn't an expectation, and students shouldn't be disadvantaged if they don't complete it as well. And that will come out later on as well. So this is kind of going through the proposals as a kind of very broad overview. That it says that students will continue with their education this academic year. Obviously, everyone's working remotely at the moment, and there is various degrees of access to technology to be able to do that. And that's going to have an impact on how students can continue their education and continue with working towards any of the components in the specifications as well. Students would be assessed by the teacher in a period between May and early June. So that's the kind of window they're looking at for the teacher assessed grade. So that's kind of as late in the academic year as really possible to do that teacher assessment. Then teachers would submit the grades to the exam boards by mid-June. Then there would be a quality assurance process, and again, we don't know what that will look like yet by exam boards throughout June. And then once that quality assurance process has been completed, the results would be issued, and the idea again is to have that done in early July, to give students the time to manage their results and applications to higher education, etc., and have that time to deal with that as well. And there will be an appeals process put in place as well. And the expectation is that that would firstly be considered by the school or college. So that's the overview of the kind of proposals, really. I did notice someone asking about international centres, which does come up in the next section about what's to be confirmed as well. So I'll cover that in a second. Envision there will be some new written papers available. Again, most of this is something that still needs to be confirmed through the consultation. So we still need lots of things to be confirmed, and this will only become clear once we get the outcome of the consultation. And that's probably expected to be in around mid to late February, considering on the timescales of things, because the consultation closes on the 29th. Usually it will take about 2 weeks for Ofqual to then publish the outcomes of that consultation and go through all the evidence and feedback that they've received throughout all of that. So it will be still a little bit of time before we get the full detail and picture of what's going to happen. But yeah, once we do know what's happening and it's all become clear, what I do plan to do is certainly more subject-specific sessions like this as well. So it can go into the real detail of the implications for each specification. So we do still need to know when teachers will make their final assessment. That is looking like that will be sort of mid-May to early June. We don't know exactly what the evidence will be that will be used by teachers to inform the final assessment grade as yet. There is this proposal that it could include some form of tests or papers, and they could potentially be provided by the exam board, or they could come from past papers as well, but that's still not totally clear. And then if there will be, we don't know if there will be a choice of topics in those papers that are provided as well, or potentially provided, because obviously most centres are at different points of delivering content, may have not covered certain aspects of the specification at this point as well. So there may need to be some sort of flexibility in those papers that are provided as well. We don't know what part NEA will play at this point, and if it should be included in the final assessment grade. Obviously for music and music tech, it plays quite a significant part. So hopefully the feedback that Ofqual will get from teachers on this is that it's an important part for music and music tech there. And we don't know if there will be a moderation process for the NEA as well. Again, that's all going to be based on the feedback that Ofqual received. But what has been said is that if qualifications include NEA, that would be marked by the teacher, but then we don't know exactly what that means in terms of moderation at this point. We also don't know the period that the papers are to be taken. Obviously, if that's going to happen in the teacher assessment grades are happening in mid-May to early June, it's going to be around that sort of period somewhere. And what conditions the papers should be taken under, because obviously there may be students that are shielding or isolating in this time period when the papers are taken. So again, Ofqual are consulting on those issues as well. They're consulting on what training, guidance and support should be provided by exam boards for teachers to provide the grades and understand a sort of almost moderation process and standardization process between centres as well. Still to be confirmed with the quality assurance process that exam boards will have in place, and the grounds for appeal for students there as well. Obviously, some centres may have private candidates as well, and I think last year in 2020, it was a bit more difficult for private candidates to actually receive a grade. The situation this year, as it's happened earlier, will hopefully mean that the whole situation for them will be smoother and will be able to provide grades for private candidates as well. And there is also a specific question in the consultation about international centres that sit UK qualifications. So we don't know as yet if there will be an option for international centres that are able to continue as normal to sit the exam on and submit coursework on an NEA as they would. And that's part of the consultation. And again, that will come out as the outcome. So just to have a look through, I don't think I particularly saw any questions coming through, just lots of comments about certain situations as well. But if there are any questions, we should have a few minutes at the end here. So what's changing in September for the next cohort period? I'm not going to go too much into the setworks side of things for now, but yes, there is the announcement about Courtney Pine coming back, but we'll have some further news about that as soon as possible. So really what to do for now is to continue deliver content for the exam components. There is obviously a suggestion that there will be some papers to be sat to inform this teacher assessment grade. So that is certainly something that I would encourage you to be continuing to do and cover as much content around that as possible. It's not going to be possible to deliver everything with all students at this point, but certainly preparing them for any potential tests or papers that will inform the teacher assessment grade is going to be important. And with the DfE stating that teaching should continue where possible as well. And then also students should continue with NEA where this is possible again. So the JCQ notice allows this to happen outside of the centre and the supervised conditions. But obviously for music and music tech, there's going to be issues with access to resources, which could prevent students continuing with this. But certainly you could encourage access to free resources if that's a possibility. and using video conferencing where possible, as we had already put in place the adaptation for performing in GCSE and A-level, where it was possible for a student to perform via video conferencing platform and it be recorded there. That could have been permitted. But obviously the situation has now changed, but there is a suggestion that where it is possible, NEA can continue, but there isn't a requirement to complete it. In the off-core consultation, again, the wording around NEA is, that it could continue, but students shouldn't be disadvantaged if they are unable to complete it. And there's questions around that and how that influences the teacher assessment grade. And again, we'll just need to wait for the confirmation to come out around that before any decisions can be made. So just as a kind of very brief thing, I'm sure most of you are aware of them anyway, just around free software to possibly use and encourage students to access. Obviously, if Sibelius isn't an option, there is MuseScore that is free to use and is very similar in what it can achieve. There are obviously other programs out there that are free and accessible for notation side of things. And then also for Adore, Studio One is, again, there's a totally free version of that that works on PC and Mac and can be used. And I mean, obviously the free version has limitations, but again, it's quite a good thing to be able to access if that's possible. So I'll try and run through some of the questions that I've seen just coming in there at the end as well. But there is the contact us information and a link to the Pearson community page as well, where I'll host the recording of this session along with the slides as well. Just having a quick look through, see if there's anything that really needs to be discussed. I noticed something, I'm just trying to find it on the chat, about 2022 or so, about will there be, that was it, will there be changes to content for those sitting the exam in 2022? Obviously, at this point, we don't know what may happen then, and if there will be any changes for 2022. That's something that DfE and Ofqual will need to look at probably, and there may well be further consultations coming from them around that. But I think the main focus for now is to really focus on summer 2021 and ensuring that students are going to get grades and allowed and can progress onto their next stage of education or employment from this as well. So just to have a quick look through, I won't get through to performance either. Instruments at home, not really practicing school. Yeah, so I mean, in terms of that, it's really wait and see what happens with the outcome, but there isn't going to be, by the look of it, an expectation to complete NEA for this year, but and how much that influences the teacher assessment grade, we don't know. People are asking about if work will be submitted or not. that is something that still needs to be decided from the consultation. I don't, at this point, with centres in different positions, my personal view is that it's unlikely, but it does need to be really waiting until the off-core consultation outcomes are published there. I saw something about moderation someone mentioned. I'm just trying to get back to that question. Grasp and moderation decisions, is that Edexcel or off-core who decide how this is done? So the decisions about if moderation is required or not will come from the off-core consultation, and then we will take the lead from what the direction is from off-core of what the processes need to be. So how can work be submitted if there's no expectation to complete NEA? Well, that's part of the consultation, really, and that's what off-core will be asking for the views on. What about the cold set works? Can we test those since we've studied them? Again, that's going to be something depending on, well, what happens with a test, if that's happening or not. That will be something to consider. But also, really, I think with the teacher assessment grade, the work that students have done throughout the entire course, there is a question around how much that should influence the grade as well. So again, all of this is really depending on the outcomes of the consultation, and that's what we've got to wait for to confirm most of this stuff. I mean, all of this information is really out there in the public domain from the consultation document, and so that can be shared with students, really, and the detail around all of this. Are music technology papers 1 and 2 going to need to be used at all? So I'm presuming that's referring to recording technology-based composition. Again, I would continue with that as far as possible at the moment, and still allow your students to work on those if they can, because potentially NEA work could inform the teacher assessment grade, but how much that influences, we don't know yet. But obviously, the further that work is to completion, the better idea you're going to have of the standard the student is working at as well. So trying to let them continue if it's possible would be a good approach with that. Maybe when we have the next meeting, we could submit questions in advance. Yeah, I'm happy to have that. Yeah, basically nothing decided yet. Yet there's lots of things that can't really be answered because we need to wait for the consultation. But as I said, I thought it was a good idea just to run this session, just to give everyone an update of where we're at, and an idea of what to really continue with at this point, and really just go through the basic overview of what the consultation is really trying to cover as well. So yeah, and really just encourage everyone to respond to the consultation with your thoughts on all these questions. I've been advised that it does take a little bit of time to get through it all. So you may need to set some time aside there to get through all of the questions in that consultation. So, I mean, just leaves me to say, hopefully you found this useful. I know I couldn't give answers to most of the things as it is really just waiting for the consultation. But hopefully, you'll have a better idea of what to try and continue, if you can, with your learners, and a lot will become clearer over the next few weeks as well. Just leaves me to say thank you very much for attending, and I hope you have a good evening.